some life advice to give someone right now, or just kind of talking to your younger self, what would you tell them?
I would say give yourself something to always look forward to each week, because you usually find out that when you get to work in a job, especially maybe something that's maybe not something you want to do for the rest of your life, finding certain activities or hobbies or social events and being able to will help you open up to meet people of like-minded interest, and also help you develop like your own direction of where you might want to go, whether it's your career or your any sort of like I don't know what to call it, but more of like not just a hobby, but more, not a career, not a hobby, but more of a something that's maybe a bit bigger to work on that
Yeah.
you can
Like a
focus
creative
on.
project.
Yeah,
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 absolutely.
and don't be afraid to, you know, say, oh, this just isn't working out for me, and to, say no to things, because your own self-worth and your own time is just as valuable.
I like that. I really like that. Do you feel
Yeah.
like people should try new things more often and just see kind of like what they like?
I think they should try new things to an extent.
Okay. Okay.
I wouldn't just go completely crazy with trying everything
That's
because,
fair.
yeah, you don't want to burn yourself out. That's the
Yeah.
other thing. You don't want to burn yourself out and leave yourself, because there's the whole thing of like you're a jack of all trades, jack of all trades, master of none, that sort of thing.
It's better to be a master of one than be a master of none. That's the rest of the
Yes,
quote.
yes,
I know that one.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say master of one. I would say master something very specific, but then have a few, maybe 3 or 4 other things that are just more secondary
Yeah,
or tertiary.
just keep it interesting. Always like make life a little bit of a learning process. I think it's really important to
is.
like explore, like try new things, but explore new facets of life.
Sure.
And especially with creative outlets, like for you, because you're an artist as well. Like, has your creativity and your projects really helped you just kind of figure out who you are in life as well?
Yeah, it's helped me figure out a bit more of, well, it's definitely like helped me figure out my own kind of style and theme. It was a lot of exploration, and speaking of trying new things, I didn't really stick to one sort of concentration. Even going through school, I tried different things. I tried film, I tried graphic design, I did several different like sculptural classes, but even though I didn't, it's not like I didn't stick with one thing completely until I graduated. Later on, maybe like it wasn't until like later after college, when I was into my 20s, I started to realize all that stuff is coming together, and now I do more of like mixed media, multimedia art. That's really interesting, and also just very unique, especially to Baltimore, where I'm able to like still do the more hands-on stuff with my drawing and found imagery, but also make it, add more of a narrative and more,
Right.
movement, and being able to tell a story a lot better
Yeah.
visually, and being able to like bring more of a community together when I have showings or collaborate in other projects for like more live performances.
Yeah,
So
that's
being,
incredible.
yeah, so being able to like be a bit more versatile, especially as an artist, especially nowadays, is very important.
Yeah.
And being able to just, like I said, be a little bit more open to trying some of those new things and those interests.
Yeah, I think it's great because personally, like we were talking about this earlier, like Baltimore is a very artistic city, and it's awesome
It
to
is.
find a lot of people that understand the creative process as well.
Yeah.
But you kind of like talked about doing shows and stuff like that. Was there ever like a moment in your life you were like really nervous of like getting yourself more out there with your art and in your expression? Because like art's like an extension of yourself. That's how I look at it.
Sure.
It's like expressing your inner thoughts and feelings. So was that nerve-wracking for you in the beginning, or how were you feeling?
I was never nervous, surprisingly. I was always more, I just want to put myself out there.
I love
I
that.
know that it's, yeah, because I've had other people say, like, man, you're so, like, open and you're so confident in, posting your stuff and putting your work out there. I mean, yeah, that shows a lot of confidence to me. That's just second nature as an artist.
I
It's,
love that.
yeah, it you can't be afraid. You're gonna have people that are gonna like your stuff or won't like your stuff, and if you don't put your work out there, you're not gonna. How are you gonna get that feedback?
Right.
How are you gonna,
Right.
you know, even like getting critiqued or get criticism to like improve as well, or to maybe find your audience too.
Right.
You have to weed through a lot of people to find your audience,
Mhm.
which can take a while. But no, it was always more the opposite. I was always more, I'm so gun ho to like, apply to shows and reach out to people and to like try to collaborate. And that was like, you know, I, it was always more of like, why am I not hearing back from these people, or why am I not like,
Patience is a virtue.
yeah, I was more on the impatient side.
Yeah,
and,
yeah, yeah.
and I think that also was what helped me, is I was so in that impatience. I was like, I really was, had that motivation to just like, nose to the grindstone with it, which I'm still in a way doing that. It's not become a full-time job. I don't really expect it to really become a full-time job. Maybe if it does, great, but just trying to enjoy the journey.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
be present and enjoy what I have while I'm still here.
Yeah, I think being present is really, really important. And I feel like I don't know if you feel the same way, but when I'm being creative, like I've been getting more into painting and drawing, and I feel like it helps you really stay in that present moment.
It does.
It really grounds you in like a sense of like meditation, where you just feel that flow of like all these ideas like flowing right through you, and it's like, oh, it just gets you in that mood. So I think it's really important. I think like for me, I've always kind of said, well, not always, more recently, I'm like, everybody is a creative, everybody is an artist. They just don't know exactly what it is yet.
Right.
And it could be like anything. Like, it sounds silly I say this because it's kind of a shocker. I'm like, I think like jobs like customer service or like just being able to talk to people, that's an art form.
It is.
Because not everybody has not just the confidence or like the skills. It's a skill that you learn over time, and people don't look at it like that, because like that's why there's people that do, like, for example, like TED Talks, where that's like their profession, because that's their art.
Right.
And I think it's really important for people to start getting in tune with that, because I think everyone's like, oh, I don't know how to paint. I'm like, well, if you're interested in it, you can learn it.
Absolutely.
It's a process.
You can learn anything if you want to. And I do agree with you with like, I didn't, for the longest time, I always thought like creativity was meant you were more of a visual creative or musically creative. But you are right, and I think that there is something to be said about just thinking more creatively, like you mentioned.
Exactly.
Customer service, being able to, it helps you have more empathy to, hearing the other person and thinking like, what is it that they're struggling with? How can I problem solve? It helps with problem solving.
Exactly.
How can I help with this person and what their needs are, and how can I help meet their needs and satisfy the best I can do.
Right.
And in a way that, socialization is an art form. It's very much like, you're navigating through what it is. There's an end goal to it, and it's just it is kind of, unfortunately, not looked upon as much as a creative field, but it is. And it's also like you can go into that even if you are just trying to look for a job. Like you can attribute creativity in some ways to that position.
Yeah. So I know you talked about where, you're not right now, not yet, unless if that's what you want, not yet.
Right.
Your artistry right now is not your full-time job, but when, if that's what you want, I want to say if, when, if that's what you want, do you feel like so I'm speaking from experience, like, do you feel like now that it's kind of more of like a hobby and something you enjoy, it's going to become a job? Do you feel like you might, like, are you fearful, or how you feel about moving forward into that, where you feel like you're like, this is my job now, and now it's more of like an obligation to do this every day, versus like, I'm like forcing the creative flow? How do you feel about that?
No, I agree. I think it's not much more so as like, I never thought of it as like, I'm trying to force creativity to get paid. It's more what I fear more is becoming bored. In a way, like, oh, I've already made it. In a way, I'm making like 100K per show, and I'm traveling, and I don't have to support myself with any sort of like full-time work. It's more of like, it's almost like changing my process and changing up my lifestyle a bit. Like, okay, how can I create my own structure? Because I thrive on structure. And if I don't really have structure, I've noticed for myself personally, I tend to get more depressed and anxious because, you know, it's hard to plan.
Yeah.
And
you're human.
Yeah.
That's
but
how I look at it.
Yeah, we're creatures of habit as well. And but at the same time, we're also not meant to be sitting in an office at 9 to 5, you know, all the time. And that's kind of what we're sort of been conditioned
it's like
to
balance, right? Because then, you know, I hear a lot of creatives and artists that like do make it their full-time job, and like, well, we still got to do the admin work. You know, it always kind of comes down to that too. So it's like tough because I feel like life truly is about balance.
Right.
And I think it's like what kind of stemming off that conversation is like, even when I talk to people about the things like the social media I've been doing or just art in general, it's like how do you stay inspired? I'm like, it's not about it being inspired all the time. It's about being consistent. It's like inspiration can come from anywhere, but you can't always just hope on just inspiration just coming all the time. You know. So what are your thoughts on that?
So inspiration, I as someone who has constant creative dry spells and like I wish I had something to work on, you know, inspiration does come whenever you least expect it, but it always seems to be my case the least convenient times. It's when I'm driving to work or something.
It's like I'm at work.
I can't just you know, turn my car around and drive back home and then
like, in a perfect world that'd be nice. Try to explain it to your boss, like, sorry, I can't come in right now, I'm painting.
Yeah, sorry, I got some inspiration, I had to go back and I had to like go to my sketchbook, like no, I think that I try to be as consistent. I'm not like by the book, like I don't do a certain thing every single day. I think I follow it loosely, but because I have, you know, other hobbies and other things, I don't just solely focus on my artwork, and I don't like shut myself in as like the starving artist, you know. I also like to be social, and I think that's still a huge important part, and a fact, and it builds more of a community, which I think a lot of people don't really. That's a kind of an underrated thing. Is like, especially right now when we're the world we're living in right now, community and finding that social balance of just a sense of belonging,
connection.
And more importantly, as an adult, when you're not, you know, where it does get harder when you get older, and so I think it's not like it's sort of like I work and like maybe I find like a rotation. I'm like, okay, I do this day and I do this day, and then I go back to doing this, and I kind of work more in that sense. And going back to what you said about meditation and art, I really like that, because I always get people, like therapists I've seen and people who have told me about like meditation, and you should just like sit there, and I've tried it and it's tough, but I really do feel like my mind gets more positive, and I do find myself in a better way of thinking if I am immersed in a project. If I am working on something and I got some good music on, and I got, you know,
getting that vibe. It's just like that, it's a flow.
Yeah, and I'm thinking like, can that just be a meditation? You know, like
absolutely.
I don't. Yeah.
There's no rule book to that. Like, if that's what it feels like to you, you're centering yourself back. You're expressing yourself. You're letting it just flow. The emotions flow into your art. I think that's a form of meditation.
Right. Yeah. Because I start to also think like more like in the background about like things that maybe I've been sort of like mentally struggling with, or maybe had some anxiety over. Like, okay, maybe this. I was thinking like, okay, I can see myself maybe doing this, or this is how I can connect the dots with this other issue in my life, or this other
problem solving through art, creative methods.
Sure.
See, even I stutter sometimes, but I think it's really important, because I think anything you do is a learning experience, and it sets you up for success for the next minute or moment in your life, to the next level or stage. And I just think personally, like we were just kind of talking about, like the creative flow and just putting that expression into something that can't be expressed through words, and it just really helps. And I think that definitely is a form of meditation. And I will say, like, I guess, traditional meditation,
Mhm.
air quotes here, of like just
Right.
kind of sitting still. Like I've done that a lot. I'm not as in tune with it right now because I just
Right.
hectic lifestyle, but I try at least like a couple of minutes a day.
Sure.
There's no rule book to it. So if you can just like, even for like a couple of seconds or like a minute, just center again. You know,
Sure.
you're like, just take a breath. You know?
Oh, yeah.
So don't feel pressured. Like at some points I could meditate to like 50 minutes
Sure.
sitting, which I don't expect anybody to do. I didn't even know I could do that. I didn't even know
That's
I could just
good.
sit that still, but it took practice. With everything, it takes practice. In the
Sure.
beginning, it was like 10 minutes, and then after a while, I was very restless. But the more it's habit, right? It's
Yeah.
anything, any skill is learned. So don't ever feel pressured to be like, oh, I gotta, no. And there's people
Sure.
that could probably meditate all day, and I'm like,
Oh,
I'm not
yeah.
doing that. But
Yeah. It's
yeah,
it's definitely kind of more your, everyone's different,
Mhm.
and how they find their center, and
Mhm.
how they get to that point. It's in a way different for everyone in their personality, their lifestyle, and it's,
Absolutely.
yeah, you're right.
their
There's
threshold.
there's no right or wrong way to like meditate. And,
yeah.
yeah, I've been trying to like open myself more up to that, like that definition of meditating more and
Yeah,
more than
absolutely.
the traditional sense.
Yeah, I think you'll do great. Just take it a step at a time. I want to ask you, a little off topic, but like thinking about your projects and your shows, is there a specific moment in your life that you were at a show or like a project that you're working on that like really like you reminisce about right now, that really just something in like a moment or just something that you think about in this whole creative journey that you've been on that really like you reflect on a lot? Like it was a really good time. I mean,
Right.
bad time, whatever. Just it really just has shaped you into the person you are sitting here today. I know it's a big
Yeah,
ask to think back in the memory log,
Sure.
you know.
Oh no, yeah. I recently sort of thought back to this. I forgot about it, but it was over the pandemic. I was thinking back to this about like, this is back in elementary school.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's really a defining moment, but I've reconnected with that memory, and it's something I always look back to kind of realize, kind of like a gratitude journal in a
Yes.
way.
Oh, I love
So,
that.
yeah, it's a memory that I still keep in mind, that hey, I did this. But back in 5th grade, we had to do like each class had to put together a small skit
Mhm.
and perform it to the rest of the classes. We had like little like pods, is what they were called, with like
Mhm.
5 different classrooms and 5
Mhm.
teachers. And this was recently after I saw the movie Titanic that came
Okay.
out. I didn't see it in theaters. I saw it on VHS, but I was obsessed with it after it came out, and
It's very popular.
it
Yeah, I can
is.
see it.
Yeah, and I really just wanted to learn more about it, but I was also just like really into how just adventurous it seemed, even though it was a super tragic event that
Mhm.
happened.
Yeah.
And I thought, and I guess like, I think I might have bought up the idea about like, what if we did something that tells a story about maybe some actual events that happened on the Titanic,
Yeah.
or certain characters or certain people. Because it was still kind of fresh, I guess, like, popular in people's
Yeah,
minds.
it's very well thought out, especially at least what was it, 5th grade?
Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah. And I don't remember how this came to play specifically, but I guess everyone thought it was a cool idea, and I
Mhm.
was, the teacher had me kind of direct, and even like put together like a small play.
Mhm.
I remember we had rehearsals out in the playground.
Oh,
And we
very
had,
involved. I like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then we just used like we set up like those little ceramic chairs, desk chairs, as
Mhm.
like a makeshift lifeboat. And one of the other kids, he just used like colored yarn and threw it
Mhm.
in the air as like a distress rocket.
Oh,
So
I
it was
love
very
that.
like DIY, and very
Yeah.
like use the materials you had, but
Mhm.
it was just an all around really fun experience.
Mhm.
And it felt like it just felt pretty defining. Like, this is like, I never saw myself even just doing something like this as like more of a leadership or director role, just at that age too.
Right.
And so I think that's a pretty, I always think back to that and I kind of get inspired to be like, it's possible, and harness that memory of that really, really good experience.
Like that whole experience, like
Yeah.
even like that feeling of you tried something new, you're like, hey, this is pretty cool. But yeah, that
Yeah.
seems really involved, and I think it's really interesting. And I talk about this with my friends too. Like, even like when you're a kid, you're like, oh, it's like DIY, like all those things you think of, but like that's like that childish kind of like
Yeah.
mentality you tap into when you're being creative. Where
It's
it's
like,
like you see that like the art of noticing. Yeah.
Cardboard box, you see a rocket ship,
Exactly, exactly, and I think that's really important to kind of look at life as well. Like,
Oh yeah.
I like to, well, I see it as well, but like the art of noticing. So sometimes,
Right.
like, like even when I was a kid, I feel like a lot of us have done this. Like, you're in the car when you're a kid, and you have like that imaginary person running through like the woods when you're on the highway. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, like just like kind of just keeping yourself, in a creative, like playful state.
Sure.
I think it's really important to be, in tune with that.
It's like, I like that you said, like, kind of like you're bored in the car and just like, what if, you create stories of things that you imagine happening when you're on the road, or
Exactly.
whatever, and it's like just to make it interesting.
Yeah, I think that's really important.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this has been wonderful. I mean, if you'd like to talk about kind of like what you're doing now, or where you see yourself, kind of like put your promo in here and for the video.
Oh.
Just like talk about what you're doing now, any projects that you have coming up, or anything you feel comfortable sharing.
Sure. So, I'm currently in between. Well, I have a project I'm working on with a theater, with a small theater company for Anne Arundel Community College. It's the production of Narnia, which opens this fall. So I'm doing projection designs, scenery designs for them.
Yes.
So I've started working on that with the files, and been working with the director. I don't. Right now, I'm kind of just like thinking about what can I do next, like as like my next kind of like installation or immersive work that I do with right now with like visuals and adding sound. I've done a number of like screen-ins and installation projects in the past like few years, and they've been fun, but it's also like they can be very time consuming, and it's not like I don't just paint and then put a painting up on the wall to sell it. I kind of have to sell an experience.
Yeah.
And I've been also thinking more about like, where do I see myself in a few years? Like, I see myself going more towards that like open installation space with like utilizing projections and visual projections and more immersive art, but maybe in more like natural spaces, like maybe showing.
Don't feel like if you want to keep it in the creative vault.
Yeah.
You can keep it in the creative if you want to. You're more than welcome to share about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
yeah. No, I just see myself getting more,
Yeah.
just elaborating more on that.
Yeah, I
and
think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know you kind of talked about, like you said, being in 5th grade. Do you feel like that was like your spark, like the real big spark of like, yeah, I want to keep being creative and being artistic, or was there another like moment where you really knew like this is what you wanted to do?
The other moment was back in 2018. So back then I was I got introduced to a stop motion app that you could use on your phone, and I didn't know that there were those. I didn't know those things exist. I remember seeing an artist. She was from New York. She was showing over in Frederick, and she showed me that app, and she mentioned it, and I went to download it, and I thought, you know what, I could do this with my illustrations. My pen and ink or like mixed media illustrations. I can like cut the shapes out and then actually animate, and I can move things. And I just was so inspired, and that's where that spark hit, was like, I can actually put narratives, because my work has always been very narrative and very like scenic. So I was I just remember going to work. I worked in an office at the time, and I'd come back from work and I would like just immediately go right to. It was very tedious. I had to build like a table with like clear plexiglass and
Mhm.
like set my phone on top, and I had to cut out and place and move certain shapes and objects, and then have the app take sequences and
Right.
create
The
like a
frames.
stop
Mhm.
motion, like a
Yeah.
frame for it. But it was so fun. It was just so like rewarding at the end to see it all come together. And I think that whole year I had my first like installation pop-up show at a hotel downtown last year in their
Oh, that's
lobby.
pretty
Yeah.
cool. Get to set
Yeah.
it in motion.
Yep. Yeah. So
Oh, that's incredible.
thank you. And
Mhm.
that just sort of like kick-started more of like my sort of style and theme. And eventually after that I just taught myself how to use After Effects. I still
Mhm.
teach myself just to like, how do
It's
I
always good to
make this
learn.
sort of
Mhm.
and it's just progressed from there. So
Yeah, I think that's incredible. I really appreciate you hanging out, sharing
Sure.
your creative story with me, the world,
Of course.
everybody.
Thank you for letting me share.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think kind of to tie in this whole conversation, I would like to draw you a little quick picture. I'm not the best artist myself, but
Sure.
just to kind of have this kind of captured in a memory. And maybe you can animate
Absolutely.
it or something. I don't know. We'll see.
Sure.
But yeah,
That's,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
Thank you. Here you go. Thank you so much.
This really hits the nail on the head. I love it.
Thank you.
Explains a lot.
Thank you.